Hello, everyone. Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. In this live stream, we are going to do a deep dive into website speed. As always, let me know if the audio is clear and where you're watching from. That's always a nice start. Website speed. I'm actually becoming a lot more interested in this topic because the more I learn about web development, the more I'm starting to care about it. Because good website speed actually has a big effect on conversions, Google, user experience, accessibility, which are all important topics. So I want to learn more about it so I can be a better no-code developer, right? So I started my journey by asking questions, as you should always do if you want to learn something. And I started that journey on Twitter. And Remkus was one of the people that replied to my tweet with tips. And he is actually a specialist on website performance with WordPress. So the guy we need on the show. And since I already met him before, and he's also Dutch, for the people that don't know, I am also Dutch. I sent him a DM and I asked him if he wanted to come on the show. So that I and you guys, of course, live, could ask him a bunch of questions on how we can improve performance for our WordPress website as no coders. So as I said before, Remkus has been specializing in website speed, but it's already for 15 years. That's amazing. It's basically his whole career is dedicated to this. So it's an honor to have him on the show. Let's show his face. And there he is. Welcome, Remkus.
Well, thank you. Good to be here.
Nice. So let's quickly check the chat to see if everything is good. Toby is here. Audio sounds good. It sounds good. Okay. I hope everyone can hear Remkus also clearly. Remkus, you are a WordPress Performance Specialist. That's the title that you go by. And I just want to start off with a question, which is, why do you do what you do? What's the story behind you becoming a performance specialist?
That's a good one. Why do I do what I do? So I think for the most of us, when we encounter a problem we need to solve, we have two ways of going about it. You deep dive into it and you figure out everything there is to learn about it, and you become either good at it, or you figure out, no, this is not for me, and you find help. And for me, I've been building professionally with WordPress since end of 2005, 2006. But in the beginning, the first 5-6 years, there were good sites, but they weren't necessarily professional in that I thought of every single angle. In 2010, when WordPress 3.0 was released, we had the introduction, or the full introduction, of custom post types and custom taxonomies. And what that meant is we went from a simple CMS, because we had posts and pages before that. We went from a simple CMS to something that could be very complex, like a whole array of different content streams and stuff like that. And I dove in pretty hard, and I learned pretty quickly that not everybody understood it the way I understood it. And I subsequently got clients who had more and more complex projects. And one of those projects had about, I think it's like 13 or 14 different custom post types and about 40 custom taxonomies. So a whole bunch of mapping and weird stuff that needed to happen. And when you do that many, and when you combine those archives in different custom views, so custom queries and all that sort of stuff, you are certainly at the time, because WordPress is much more optimized now, but at the time, just building it as is was not necessarily producing a fast site. So I was like, why is that? Because I'm just using WordPress, right? So it shouldn't be that complicated. Yeah. And that's essentially the beginning of the journey of understanding performance, and understanding that we leave a lot of and you already mentioned this in the intro, we leave a lot of money, conversion, user happiness as they're browsing your site, all that sort of stuff. We leave that, unexplored if we're not using performance first. And in the years to come, I started focusing on that more and more. I have an agency. I do a whole bunch of stuff with WordPress, but it starts from having my agency, where I essentially have clients that have, generally, you could say, the more complex, the more scaling and in need of performance type of projects. So that's not to say I don't have, small sites for, literally the Chinese restaurant in my town where I grew up.
Nice.
I have those as well, but the vast majority are just really complex sites that just have all these types of independent connections with APIs and just funky, weird stuff, and I like it.
Yeah, so you're like you the more you learned about it, the more you started to love it and see the impact of it, and then at some point you decided, like, you know what, I'm just gonna make this my focus of my career. Like, how did that thought process go?
So I think about 6 years ago, I started talking about it publicly more, but I have been doing it roughly since 2010. And because performance for me was always one of the components, right? There's nothing, like in the whole build process, there's nothing there that doesn't have a performance concern. So every single thing you add to your WordPress site has a performance concern. But there's also security, and there's accessibility, and there's the UX in general. All that sort of stuff is part of how I look and how I see myself as someone building WordPress sites. But I've focused on performance in the last 6 years publicly, because I thought at a certain point, this all this advice that's out there of how to make WordPress faster is just not complete. It's retelling old myths. It's resharing snippets that have been copied over 4 or 5 times and are not using the latest smart integrations in WordPress, for instance, nor do I see a lot of like, if you don't understand what performance means and what caching is in the relation to performance, then you're missing out, because caching doesn't solve performance. And that may sound weird if that's the first time you heard it, but caching does not solve performance. I decided to lean in harder on it, because I think it's a topic that we just need to understand better. WordPress has there's a lot of people say WordPress is slow or WooCommerce is slow, and it's absolutely not the case.
Okay.
But what you can have is bad hosting. What you also can have is a entirely incorrectly configured WordPress site, and what most people definitely have is way too many plugins doing stuff it shouldn't be doing. But it's also not about the amount of plugins, really. I have client sites that have over 100 plugins, and they have a time to first byte below 500 milliseconds. You can still do that.
Okay, I want to respond to that.
Smart.
Yeah, I want to respond to that, because there's like so much people out there. The number of plugins for people is basically a measurement of speed. Yes. And generally speaking, it kind of makes sense, because there's a chance that there's going to be more shit in it if the plugin list is longer, of course. But that's absolutely not how performance works, right? Like, because some plugins are just super small, and one plugin can really mess up the whole thing. I read on your blog, which is very interesting. Like, wait, is that on your remkusdevries.com? Wait, let me show you. So Remkus also has a blog. I think it's this one. Is that correct? Is this your main blog?
Yeah.
Okay, so
to the bottom left.
Your blog. Here, you post this article, which is very interesting. Stop asking which plugins to use. And you made a few interesting points here. I think we're gonna, get to a few points in this blog post. It's not just about this one, but I was reading this. I was like, okay, people see performance as just installing a plugin, or they just want to get a list of like, okay, this is what you shouldn't do. This is what you should do. And of course, there is some truth that some plugins are worse than others. I mean, it has to, right? But
Absolutely.
your philosophy, from what I understand, and please explain, is basically like, it's like it should start, a project should already start with this in mind and not be an afterthought. In the same way as, like, I had an interview with Anna about accessibility. She said exactly the same thing. It's not something you add as a plugin at the end of the project. It's like you have to start with that. It already starts with color contrast, for example, right, about accessibility.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, from what you're teaching, that's the same with performance, right? Am I understanding it correctly?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So could you expand a little bit?
Yeah. So when you're building a site, we have not only a ton of choice in what platform are we using, what CMS are we using, but within the platform of our choosing, WordPress, there's, again, tons of different ways of building a site. And you could argue there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And then the right way isn't necessarily, do I prefer tabs over spaces? You know, that's a silly debate. But the right way could be, the closer I am to web standards, the better I am. And if that becomes your first thought as you're building your site, then a whole bunch of hot topics in the world of WordPress become much easier to explain. So, for instance, accessibility, for instance, performance, for instance, security related stuff. All of these things become an inherent decision as you make them, because they're the right or the bestest way of doing things. And as you start adding all these into best practices, most people think they have to start every single project from scratch and figure out everything and all that. What most people miss is that it doesn't really matter what tools you use. You want to have the most performant tools, but you actually want to have the you want to have a sort of foundation of the things that you usually use that are roughly doing what it needs to be doing. And then from that, you start adding stuff and measuring what their impact is. In the article that you have in front of you, I give an example where, for instance, Yoast SEO, I compare it to the SEO framework. The SEO framework is the faster plugin. There's no doubt about it. You just measure it and you can tell. However, there's features in Yoast SEO that I want, that I need. And the difference is so small that for me, it makes more sense to say, you know what? I understand that performance-wise, like hardcore performance-wise, I should go with the SEO framework. And if you want to do that, I still think it's a smart choice. But for me personally, I need the functionality that Yoast SEO has. So I pick Yoast SEO because my ultimate goal is for a site to load uncached under 500 milliseconds. If I can make that happen with Yoast SEO there, and I have all my features and functionality, winner, winner, chicken dinner.
That's interesting. So you have some kind of level which for you is like 500 milliseconds. There is some kind of border there for you. Like if you go above that, you would consider it slow? Or?
Correct. All the choices I make that push it to 1 second, because I deal with legacy sites as well, right? So sites that have been around for 15, 20 years. There's so many legacy code in there that force me to, I can't do a full overhaul. So I have to work with what I have available. So if you're looking at those sites, it's oftentimes very difficult to get them under a second. But that is my goal. My goal is to not just be the second. My goal is to be at 500. And anything that happens between 500 and a second, I think about the choices that I make. I don't just slap on a plugin. I look at, okay, so what did that mean? What did that do? And are there things that plugin does that I can cache to make it even smarter? Like, for instance, if I need to check something regularly, but perhaps not every 5 minutes or every minute, maybe once every 24 hours, then I can do that check, save the result of that check for 24 hours, and then 24 hours later, we'll do a fresh check. And that fresh check, and you save those things with what's inside of WordPress. It's called the transient API. But you store the result. And that could be, for instance, a very complex menu or a whole bunch of menus at the bottom of your footer with all these things that you do because you have your latest post there, you have your this, your that. That can be just one time I do that query. I save it, I store it as an HTML file. And, I just retrieve the HTML file. That's super simple instead of having to do 25 queries. It's things like that.
Yeah. So you're measuring, right? And that's I think the big difference between you as a professional performance guy and most people. We just dump the whole website in a PageSpeed score, Google metrics or GT metrics, and then we see a number, and then we just try a bunch of stuff with like plugins, and we're like, oh, it improves a little bit, but we have no idea like where it's coming from. If we're being honest, and it's also fair. Like this is the thing. There are many rabbit holes in WordPress, right? It's like accessibility is also one of these things. It's like it's a rabbit hole. There's people that dedicate their whole life to it. It's very hard to get it right, but doesn't mean that you should not learn about it.
Yep, and the same goes for performance. There's an incredibly high amount of parallel between performance and accessibility. But I get that people if it's too big to wrap your head around, it just becomes something that it's pretty complicated to figure out where do I put my most focus. But if the philosophy of that post that you shared just now is essentially is the philosophy of performance, and that essentially means I want you to understand about the choices you make, the consequences, and I can go for X or Y, but maybe I should go for Z because that's the actual better solution. I want you to understand that better because if you have a weighed opinion about everything you introduce, then you have a better understanding of what you're doing. And the end result shouldn't be the site that you build for the client, but the end result should be that foundation that you reuse for all your clients.
Okay, yeah.
Because if you do that, you'll stay safe. You'll stay within the margin of what you've calculated. Like you do a lot with Elementor, right?
Yes.
So Elementor, most people know that Elementor is a relatively heavy add-on to WordPress, meaning your site will become slower. Elementor version 4, by the way, solves a lot of these issues. But just stay with the fact that adding something to WordPress as a plugin, that thing that does a lot, then there's usually a cost. Now, if that cost is just that cost, it's fine. But Elementor has, I don't know how many different versions of extensions to Elementor you can add to it, but there's a bunch.
Add-ons, yeah.
And if you just need, if there's like 5 things you want to add to your Elementor site, and you install 5 different extensions that are full of stuff for that purpose, you quickly go from an okay-ish site to, oh shit, stuff is really starting to slow down.
Yeah.
Because your mentality should be about, how do I figure out how to build this site with the least amount of extra stuff that I introduce?
Yeah, that's actually sorry.
Yeah, and I was going to say that is just a beginning of to understand the mentality change that is needed.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's interesting, because these add-ons, that add a bunch of extra widgets. I always try to recommend people to avoid these as much as possible and just try
Yeah,
to learn how to achieve things with containers and widgets in Elementor so that you can avoid those plugins. And some of them have better options where you can turn off the ones you don't use, but not all of them have that.
yep,
But yeah, it's generally better to just avoid those add-ons at all. And what I
yep.
wanted to say is that the whole idea of Elementor, like one of the biggest reasons, maybe the biggest reason why Elementor became successful is because it solved this plugin drama that we had before. Because what was
It did.
WordPress before Elementor? It was like you install a theme and then there's limitations in that theme, and then you had widgets before that and plugins which then work together and on shortcodes and all kinds of stuff, and then you got
Yep,
a website. So Elementor said, you know what, you install one thing, this is just the whole thing, and you get a form widget, you get a button widget, you get all kinds of widgets, so you don't have this mess. And then Elementor decided, I don't know what you think about that, but they decided to make it kind of very easy to add add-ons on top of. Like not all companies decide to go that route, right? Some have a more closed system. And so Elementor decided that also contributed to its growth, because then you could even do more for free, but that came with a huge cost, not only in speed, but I think also in development, because then they had to work together with all of these companies in order to make sure that everything stays compatible, because otherwise they're going to blame Elementor support.
yep,
and,
yep.
and so they basically is stuck in like a spider web that they created themselves. Like, do you agree with this view?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Elementor solved the use case, and I don't think there's a shame in using no-code solutions to build a site. I think there's a shame in picking the no-code solution that offers more problems than it solves. And what Elementor did was solve a big problem. And that problem, I think, needed to be solved.
Yes.
I think WordPress wouldn't be where it is now without Elementor. And one of the things it inspired is other page builders. It ultimately inspired, or the collection of page builders ultimately inspired WordPress to head into a different direction with the block editor and the site editor that came out of Project Gutenberg. And we have to thank Elementor and all the others for that. And I think it's the understanding that if you make a decision to go with a no-code solution, please understand the impact of it is the thing that was missed in that whole conversation. And I think you're quite correct in that all those extensions that are then on top of Elementor, for the vast majority, introduce a complexity that you really don't want, a dependency you really don't want, a lock-in you really don't want. But if you know how to manage that and your clients are in that realm where that perfectly is aligned, then do your thing. But the downside of this is that as we're building sites in this particular fashion, we become lazy in figuring out what the best solutions actually are. So we depend on that one solution. And again, let's use Elementor as the choice here. That one solution is now making all the decisions for us. And because we don't fully understand the field we're working in, we don't give feedback the way we should give feedback, right? So there will be choices and features, and this goes beyond Elementor because this also goes for all the extensions out there.
Yeah.
If there currently are extensions that you only need one solution, one widget, and you cannot turn all the other ones off, in other words, they're never loaded in any way, shape, or form, that is some feedback we should be giving, because we should, first of all, never use them. And if we have to use them, we tell them, look, I'd love to use yours, but you need to make yours more performant first, because this is bullshit. You're forcing me to load your plugin on every page.
Yeah.
heavy, fully loaded, and that doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. So if we're depending on those solutions as to be our beacon of light, I think we're making the wrong decision.
But there's also a responsibility from these companies, because you said that WordPress, when you started messing around with custom post types when it first came out, wasn't as performant as it is today, and they have also made a lot of improvement. Elementor is
Yep.
obviously also realizing that this is what a big part of the market wants, and so these companies, I believe, should also take some responsibility to create proper tools, because of
But
course if you're going to market it as you can do anything in it, and Elementor went even a step further, which is saying like you can design in Elementor, which I don't agree with, because I come from a UI XD Figma background, so I've always pushed
yep.
back on that narrative. But you could build anything with it. But yeah, that created a marketing which worked, because no code obviously attracts a lot of people. But then yeah, if you then give a solution that's not maybe the best of what it could be, right? Because they could have done it differently from the start.
Yep.
Yeah, then
Yep.
you're kind of like stuck. And then now after, what is it, 5-6 years, they have to do a whole big change from V3 to V4, and I'm all in it, of course. But it's quite a it's going to be quite a mess. Not just how they do it, because I think they're trying to do it correctly by not breaking too many sites, but just like the fact that we had to go from what it was to now this it's just like it's going to be a whole different tool almost.
Yeah,
So
and I think
yeah.
it should be. I think it should be. I think that's where we need to be. But I think we as web professionals, meaning anybody who's getting paid to build sites in whatever capacity, we have a responsibility to want to uphold web standards. They are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Accessibility is part of it. Performance is part of it. UX is part of it. All of these things, there's standards. There's ways there you can say this is how it should be, and then favor the tools that do that. That's for starters. Second, if they don't, but they offer great solutions, then we need to talk to them and say, look, I'd love to use yours, but here's the impact of what it did, and that's not acceptable. So please fix it, make it better. I think that's the downside, as I can see it from, and this is just generally speaking, right? But this is the downside of the no-code crowd, because they don't fully divert attention into learning about the web standards. They just go fully for the solution.
Yeah.
We are tricked into thinking it doesn't matter, but it does. The web gets better
Yes.
because we pay attention to performance, because we
Yes.
pay attention to accessibility and all those things.
Yes.
So, there's a huge responsibility for folks like yourself who are in the education side of things, talking about performance and the impact of it, which is why it was, when you asked me to be on your live stream just now today, was a super easy choice, because I think we need to have these conversations much more.
Yeah.
This is not about me selling my solutions. I do have a course about make WordPress fast, but what I really want is for you to start looking into what are the things I should implement? How should I think? What should I avoid? How should I, start asking questions instead of just going for the shortcut to thinking. Like, no, actually think about it.
Yeah. I think it's like I think it's like many no coders, especially in WordPress, because outside of WordPress, in like Wix and Squarespace and Framer, those are kind of like, they don't really care that much. But like inside of WordPress, I feel like many no coders are now starting to realize that things like performance and doing it properly is actually really important. But I think it's just a natural evolution of the like the of like the of technology. Like something becomes available, which is what Elementor did with no code, and then we got all excited, and then we realized like, oh, it's actually much deeper than what we thought, right? And then, yeah,
But
we need to open up and learn about it. That's why I, for example, have already started or doing that a lot, like doing Elementor V4 live streams, which are, by the way, not tutorials, but these are just explorative streams where I'm just trying to understand so that later I can make a tutorial that's like
and
more in depth.
that's the way, right? Everybody should
Yeah.
do explorative things. Everybody should
Yeah.
figure out instead of just blindly accepting. I think I think so because we have this vague job description. Anybody can call himself a web developer, and and really there are so many levels to that one name. But I think there's a part of us where we should say, look, if we're doing this, we should want to do it right.
Yeah.
We shouldn't
Yes.
just do it to get the paycheck. We should want to do it right.
Yes.
Meaning, we need to force ourselves to understand what we're doing instead of just doing it. And this is just, this is not limited to performance, but performance is a great example, because if you could just, if you just do what you read everywhere and without checking, then you're making decisions that are just hurting your site, and then ultimately hurting your credibility.
Yeah.
The amount of sites that that are thrown at me, like, please help us fix it, where I see 2 page builders activated, where I see 4 or 5 extensions to those page builders, then have all these types of plugins that do so many things across the board. None of them are optimized. And then the combination of using a theme that also thinks it needs to have all the options. Like, that's so many layers of crap.
Yeah.
And I take on these projects less and less. Every now and then there's a great one that I really enjoy working on. But for the vast majority, I will just say, look, there's only one way I can fix this, and this is rebuilding your site. And we're going to have to make choices. There's going to be consequences, and some of the features you really love, we're going to have to think about differently. Because as a web developer, I feel it's my responsibility, dear client, to help you and guide you through the process of making the best informed decision in order to have the result you want. And that's not just a nice looking site. You want it to be performant. You want to have conversions. Because if you're paying for the site, you're making money with it, right? We have to assume that. So if we're
not
making
all
money
websites,
with it,
but most websites.
no,
yes.
but from the moment some version of money is derived from having a website, conversion comes into play. The pleasure of clicking through a site, in where that happens in a rapid, quick way, that becomes a pleasure to navigate through. Those are the things we need to do.
Yep, and I've seen this in design. Like I studied web design, UX, and I had to do lots of research in school. This is already 10 years ago, but when I learned about design in a proper design school, I soon realized that the internet is full of designs that just look pretty but don't really work. And now it's even getting more crazy with animations that people just throw on a website without thinking whether it's actually beneficial. You can have some subtle animations, but the stuff that you see on websites like Dribble and Behance, and it's just way too far. And I think that's beautiful about this space. Like, everybody comes with his own expertise into the space. Like, I have always tried to push for better design and design thinking. In the WordPress community, I try to challenge developers to think about the UX of their plugin instead of just the functionality, because developers love to add features, but don't always think about the experience that happens when you add too many features. And so that's beautiful, like, everybody has its expertise, and like, the more you do it, the deeper it goes. But I think that's also life somehow. I don't know, like, I don't want to get philosophical because this is about performance, but it's like
it is philosophical. It is philosophical because it becomes about a mentality that you have, and that mentality once you have it, doesn't limit yourself to performance or building sites.
Yeah.
Like I approach my health, my strength training from the same principle, meaning I educate myself the best way I know how to figure out what I'm doing is the smartest and the best thing. And I don't limit that to the side of my work or to the side of just performance or building sites or whatever. I think that is anything I add on to it now really becomes a philosophical thing. But I think we should all strive to find the best version of ourselves, period.
Yeah, we should take life seriously, and if you're right, like if you're selling websites to clients, you should take it seriously and you should not just, throw a bunch of plugins together and then hope that things will be all right. Like you should learn, you should have this open mindset, and, also don't be too hard for yourself, because like I've said before, this is what I teach in my course, the companies have also misled you by their marketing, so forgive yourself. Yeah, like forgive yourself for thinking you could do all of it. It's like a little bit the same with AI coding. It's like just one prompt and you have a web app. Well, it's very rare that it's one prompt. Like often it involves like problem solving, and you have to understand how data moves through an application in order to fix problems, and so
tweaking, fine-tuning.
It's a lot deeper, and I mean that's also, it's also like interesting as a career. Like you get better and better every year. It's not just knowing a page builder and then putting a page together. It's a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few comments in the chat now that are a good example. Dennis Krijgman says there's still a big gap between designers and developers, and he's right. But the comment to that is from Toby Salami, I think is probably the name. But he says designers are not developers, but they could be. Meaning he's insinuating that sometimes we sit in a too narrow of a discipline. And it doesn't mean that a designer should become a coder, but they could be, or they could at least start making a step into that direction. Because if you understand the coding side of things, of the things that you are designing, you become a better designer. It's as simple as that. And vice versa. If a developer who only does back end now has to produce something that touches the front end, and they've never thought about UX in any way, shape, or form, they're going to make horrible decisions. So it's, this is a good thing to want to do some of it. And I'm not saying a developer should be a designer or a designer should be a developer. What I am saying is we all understand that there's these two disciplines that come together and build a website. Maybe it's smart to start learning a little bit what the other role does.
If you want to have your web design agency, then for sure, like it depends on your role. Like if you would just want to build apps and just work for a company, you can just specialize in one thing, right? But if you want to sell websites and you come from a design background like me, then you should continually learn more about development. And this is an interesting discussion. Like how far should you go, right? And there's no clear answer, of course. It's also a process of learning and exploring, and I think we should create
preference.
What? Sorry?
And just preference. There's things you like and don't like.
Yes, exactly, and it's important that we acknowledge that there's different roads to Rome. But the destination is still Rome, if that makes sense.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk a little bit about hosting, because I know you are. You said in the beginning that you can have good hosting and bad hosting. So, what are? Okay, I have a few questions. We already talked about those caching plugins. but not in detail. So I just would like to know a little bit. Like, can you drop some names? Like, what are some good caching plugins and what are the ones you should avoid, or which one are just over promising? Which one do you use? Like, can you at least give us a little bit of direction?
I can, but I'm going to start with saying it depends,
Okay.
because there's different ways of looking what is good hosting. So I have I've carved out the one particular way of looking at it from my perspective. And that perspective is essentially saying, I want the best performance, period. I'm not a person who necessarily needs great support. I don't need a lot of onboarding. I need to be able to add a site to your server. I need command line interface. I need to be able to do stuff on that command line. That's it. And those things are secondary. Primary is I want the best performance. Why? I have the type of clients who understand the importance of that. They see the impact of that. So what is good hosting is already a very wide and vague concept.
It's like, what is a good car? It's like, it depends, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
you know, what does a house cost? What kind of house do you
Yeah.
want? What
Yeah,
does a
okay,
website
okay.
cost? What
Yeah.
kind of website do you want? Like,
Yeah.
it really depends. And I know it's an easy throw off, like, it depends.
Yeah.
But we need to understand this, what we're choosing. So I generally look at 4 layers of WordPress hosting. You have okay hosting, you have good hosting, you have really good hosting, and you have excellent hosting. Now there's a 5th layer that's absolute crap. That is the category where you say you get what you pay for. So if you're paying a couple of dollars per month, you probably have crap hosting. Like, I'm not even going to go into the discussion with you why that is. Just trust me, on as soon as I throw any traffic at it, we'll quickly figure out it is crap hosting.
Yes, I see.
So I picked my favorite hosting depending on what the client needs.
Yeah.
If you look at certain things like good performance, like absolute top-notch performance, then I am entirely okay with spending 100 euros as a base for a simple account, because
Per month?
that may be 100 euros per month, yeah, or $100. No, wait, that would be $115. We have a horrible conversion rate nowadays. But I'm okay with that, because what I'm getting back for it solves problems, period, done. So, what is a great host? It depends entirely on the criteria of the things that you need it for. I don't have many videos on my YouTube channel just yet, but one of them is answering this particular question, because really it depends, and there's reasons why it depends. If you then look at your other side of the question, like what is a good caching solution? You first need to understand. Yeah, that's the one. What is the best WordPress hosting? If you look at caching, that kind of works in the same way. It depends. If you want the very best caching, then caching should not live on your server, for the simple reason that if it doesn't live on your server, there is nothing your server needs to do to serve a page, because you are doing this off server. In front of your site is where your caching should live in the most ideal of circumstances. And what that is essentially what we call edge caching. And edge caching, the best example of that is Cloudflare with its APO. That is a wonderful solution that solves, I don't know how many data servers they have across the globe, but Cloudflare APO is full on caching, and the APO service, it should be somewhere here, yeah. But the APO service is a good example of it. You have all of your static stuff is offloaded to the cloud in front of your site. That's the best scenario. NitroPack is also an example of where that's happening. So all these 2 tools, in my and the way I look at things are my favorites. It's as simple as that. Now, when you have these two in place and you can afford these because they cost money, but again, they solve real problems. If for whatever reason that's not an option and you need to have something locally installed in your WordPress site, then there are solutions like probably the one I would recommend the most is WP Rocket. That's an honest company, as opposed to others who are gaming stuff. WP Rocket works. It gives you all the options you need. You can optimize it. You can optimize your WordPress site with WP Rocket to your heart's desire. You can make it smart. You can, it has all of the controls. And what you end up with, I think, one gap left, and that is the optimizing of the DOM. And what I mean with that is, if you essentially have a we all know the example of if you have a plugin that adds a script to every single page, but you only need it on the contact page. So contact page. So let's say we have a contact form, and we only are using a form on the contact page. Then we don't need the same script loading on the front page. That doesn't make any sense. Nor do we need it on archives. And the plugins that I use that are doing these types of things, I use Perf Matters, and that is probably the smartest plugin you should want to add anyway. Yeah. So this one has one of the most kick-ass feature inside of this plugin is the script manager. And the script manager essentially allows you to say, I do or do not want to load this particular script or CSS file on that page.
Ah.
And by the way, when I say WP Rocket is an honest company, I mean that in the literal sense that the solution that they're providing is an honest thing.
Yeah, there's because I see some people in the comments not liking them.
I don't like their pricing strategy either.
Okay.
I think they made a huge mistake with that. But that doesn't take away that the solution is actually good.
I see. Yeah, okay. The product is good. They just did some tricks with the pricing, which really a lot of people didn't like.
Oh, it rubbed me the wrong way, very, very much. But I can make a distinction between, Perf Matters is the guys behind it are greats. But the distinction I make is the solution actually does it do what it needs to do? Yes, it does. So I'm happy with it then.
Yeah. Wow, their website is incredibly fast. Like instant. It's like I'm developing local. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's also nothing going on the site, so that helps. But
yeah, it's boring. Yeah, the design is very boring. Yeah. Okay. So we have some names.
There's some. Can I touch on some questions that are being thrown in the chat? Because
I will pull them up. Whatever you want to tackle. I see the comments are going.
So Toby says it should be mentioned too that APO allows dynamic stuff too, not just static. That is not 100% correct.
Wait,
APO allows you. Yep. Cloudflare. No, the other one. It should be mentioned too that APO allows dynamic stuff too, and not static. But that's not 100% correct, because the moment you start caching dynamic stuff, you end up with situations where if we're on a WooCommerce site and I have something put in my cart, and then that stuff would be cached and somebody else would be able to see it. What I think he means is there's ways where you can have parts of your website on a dynamic site that could be optimized in just caching the fragment of that. And we call that fragment caching. And I also don't think that is necessarily something that APO solves. But APO nonetheless is a great solution.
That's the Cloudflare, right?
NitroPack does solve a dynamic part. They have, for e-commerce solutions, they have an optimized dynamic version of cache. So if you want to look into what NitroPack offers, when you're now looking at WP Rocket, by the way, but yeah, this one. So they have a solution for WooCommerce carts and all that. So they're smart about how they cache that sort of stuff. But the way to look at the what is the smartest solution for me to use here is preferably you go for edge caching. If you can't, then find the best caching solution out there, which in my opinion is a combination of WP Rocket and Perf Matters currently. There are other solutions out there. There is one that's really good, but it's really complicated. That is W3 Total Cache. And yeah, so, you know.
And if you have a hosting company that uses Lightspeed cache, what would you do then? Because I know that many hosting companies install that by default because it works good with their server. At least that's what they say. Is that true? And how do you view that?
It does, but it is no preference of mine.
No preference, or is it not good?
No, I can't say it's not good, because it does plenty of good. It just doesn't do what I want it to do in the way I think it should be done. Yeah, it's just of all the sites that I've done my optimizations on and for, I have never ever used Lightspeed.
So even if your hosting installed this by default, then you know how to do it better, basically, with these other solutions.
So the base starts that I understand which host I need to pick. That doesn't necessarily have a downside in any way, shape, or form. So, and then if my hosting is doing what it needs to do, I can get the rest of the sites done with the solutions I mentioned so far. I like the vast majority of sites that I work with have Nginx and micro caching of Nginx combined with full HTML caching that is offloaded to the edge. That is a very simple, straightforward stack of how, of what I work with most.
Well, that didn't sound simple to me. What you just said.
So Nginx is a version of server. You have Apache and Nginx, and so Toby says Nginx, Apache, or Lightspeed. Nginx all the way, all the time. And inside of Nginx, you have a feature you can employ that it's called micro caching, and what it does, it caches whatever it needs to cache in a very short time span, solving a lot of issues in terms of performance that it needs to produce. And then the elevated version of that is that you add on full HTML caching. But you know, if we that part is quickly going to become a quick dive into technical side of things. Yeah. And I see some questions in the chat in this direction. I think an interesting one to answer in this context is Wiggle Styles. Wiggle, you guys have the funniest usernames, by the way. Wiggle Styles. Can you tell a bit about Redis? I have it installed on my server, but why do I need a plugin to use it? Is there a better solution? So Redis is designed to be an optimized layer between your database and your WordPress site. And there is only a particular use kind where the input-output of stuff that is being pumped to and from the database becomes a bottleneck. When that is the case, that's when you introduce Redis. But you don't just slap on Redis on the server. You need one particular solution with it. And that solution is called Object Cache Pro. That's objectcache.pro if you're looking for the website. That particular plugin is the solution, the glue between your Redis client and your WordPress site. And everything Redis does and everything WordPress does just becomes better by introducing this particular plugin. It's not a cheap one, but it's also by far the best version out there.
So hallelujah. So it's like these prices are incredible. So like, okay, let's talk a little bit about skill. Okay, so
Yep.
because this is very easy to get very technical, and I would love to learn more about this, but I think we need to do a deep dive into that if we really want to get the most out of the stream, because this is just a general opening this stream to learn more about it. But so I just
Yep.
want to talk a little bit on a more zoomed out level, because you're not gonna pay, I don't know, let's say $100 per month for the Chinese shop in your village, right? Because it
No.
doesn't need that. So
It,
like,
no. No.
and
No.
many
So, so,
im- im-
so database heavy is essentially where Redis starts to shine with Object Cache Pro. So
yeah,
e-commerce
so
sites where there's a bunch of orders and a bunch of other stuff going on.
okay, so would you say, like, for let's start at the bottom, okay? Like our own portfolio website. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
traffic, maybe 10 people per day that visit it. Like what I know you maybe don't like this question, but where would you start without getting like super deep? And maybe you can also say, like, okay, you're thinking about it too simply right now, Reno. That's also okay, but like, where would you start? I know this Performance Matters has a free plugin from what I've seen. So like, what is the starting pack? And then once you go a little bit bigger, I know with hosting you said about that, because there's shared hosting, and then the step up is cloud hosting, which both of them should be managed. And then, for performance, like, what are the steps you would say to go from small websites to like more medium, and then crazy with huge database?
So you start with good hosting that suits the problem of the client site. And if it is a simple portfolio site and not a lot of traffic, then you can get by installing, for instance, just WP Rocket. I would add Perf Matters to it. I don't know exactly what Perf Matters' license is in terms of how many sites you can add to it, but it's a relatively cheap plugin and you can use it for tons of sites. That is the base combination I would always want to use. And that even works on not on bad hosting, but on okay hosting, right? So that solves a big problem. And if that is covering your types of sites, then okay, you're good.
Yeah.
If you are then entering slightly larger, more complex sites, you need to up your hosting. So there's hosting solutions out there that then just become bottlenecks. So you start looking for the better hosting, or maybe even the great hosting.
Yeah.
That is your next step, because you can still get away with just using WP Rocket or NitroPack for that optimized version of your site. That still is a relatively cheap way to do. I would still recommend using Perf Matters again, but if the traffic is a little bit more serious, the client is the type of client site is a little bit more serious, I think it makes sense to go to look at NitroPack, look at WP Rocket, still that combination. The moment we start entering the level of where it really starts to matter, and for a good example of this is the moment you have WooCommerce installed, or any e-commerce solutions on WordPress for that matter. What most people don't understand is that if I have fully optimized my WordPress site, and on top of that, I have WooCommerce activated, then I'm thinking, look, let me optimize for this particular site, do the best I can, let me slap on some caching. And I start measuring it in Lighthouse and GTmetrix and all of these things. And all the signs say, this is a great site, it's fast, it's good, wonderful. The problem here is a principle called cache hit ratio, meaning how much of your site is actually served cache. And if it's an e-commerce site, from the moment somebody drops on your site, clicks onto a product, and from the moment they add to cart, there's a cookie set, because the journey from the visitor from that moment on is no longer a static one. That then becomes a fully dynamic one, meaning we cannot cache. We cannot rely on caching.
Yeah.
NitroPack solves that to a degree, but there's still a part of that site that is uncached. Because if it was cached, if I were to add something to my cart and you would be the next visitor, you would see what I have in my cart. That makes no sense. So the moment cache hit ratio becomes less and less, and again with e-commerce sites or membership sites or any version of being logged in or having cookies set, you have to solve different problems. It means your raw performance needs to be really good. So from my perspective, we are starting to look at the upper two brackets of hosting. So we are at great hosting, and we're looking at excellent hosting. That is a way of thinking, right? So from that moment, I start looking at Cloudflare APO. I start looking at NitroPack as the solutions I want to use in front of the site because I want to optimize whatever I can. But I fully understand that my raw metal, my server, needs to be the most performant version because I cannot rely on caching to do the problem solving, which is a lot of words saying caching doesn't solve performance. It just hides it beautifully.
Yeah.
But the moment you are no longer serving or able to serve a cached version of your site, then you are relying on the internals you have done inside of WordPress, meaning you have your object caching taken care of, you have your transient caching where it makes sense, all of that sort of stuff. You want to have that internally solved, and yet you're still relying on the hardware you're working on. So I think roughly that's pretty much me explaining the thought that I have into, what am I doing here?
Okay, let's answer a few questions. I see.
Yeah, that's horseshit. That's horseshit.
Yeah, but this is interesting because, like, I've heard people say this about NitroPack, but also about WP Rocket, that they're like doing all kinds of tricks to
can't
bump
fake
up the page
scores.
speed. Okay.
You can't fake scores in that regard. What you can do is find creative ways, and every single caching solution that does optimizing, in one way or another, they're playing with what they can do. But this comment is absolutely
It's not
incorrect.
true. Okay. All right. Well,
No.
that's good to learn. So is this
And
also
by the
too
way,
simple?
this let me add to that. That sentiment stems from something that happened in 2019, 2020, years back, when they had a feature where they were certainly looking at the boundaries of what they could do. And some people said, this is cheating. But in technicality, it wasn't. It was just going about creative ways. But WP Rocket does the same thing. APO, in a way, does also manipulates things. If you're optimizing, you need to do some version of manipulating, but you cannot fake scores. That's just horseshit. That principle doesn't work.
Okay. And is this too simplified, this comment, or not? What would you say?
Great hosting plus a minimal performance plugin is more than enough. Depends on what a performance plugin is. Perf Matters is a performance plugin, but NitroPack is also a performance plugin. So what is simple, or what is minimal? I think what you want is to have the smartest solution that solves your problem, and that is a minimal approach. I think that is the correct way of going about it.
Okay, let's do a little game. My website gets around almost 10K views per month.
Yep.
So what would you do? And again, maybe you cannot answer this quickly, but what would you do? This doesn't have any e-commerce. It does have some cool effects on some pages, especially like on the course pages. It has some pretty cool stuff. I can show a few things. Yeah. Now this one doesn't have a lot. No, actually the other page has a lot more. I don't know if this is actually like intense. Oh, here I have a problem. This is probably because of a caching plugin, because I turned on a lot of features on Lightspeed and now my slider doesn't work because I think it's blocking JavaScript or something. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly.
Possibly.
It most likely is having to do with lazy loading and stuff not being activated when it comes into viewport.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I need to fix that. And yeah, so it's just a bunch. Oh, there's also a problem here. Oh my God, look at that. Well, that's bad.
It's one way to express speed.
See, I understand performance. It's going so fast. Oh, okay, there's a mistake here in my code. Oh my God. So yeah, I messed around with Lightspeed, and now some things have broke apparently, which I'm not happy with. So now I'm personally I'm also like, okay, what should I do now? Like, there's some custom post types, maybe like 4 or 5. There's not that much going on. There's some external links, but yeah, what would you do with a website like this?
So there's two things that are something we should talk about. That is animations, and that is large images and video. Those need to be optimized, and you're looking for an answer that I can't give because I'm not looking into your source code right now. I don't know what you have activated inside your site and whatnot. But on the performance side of things, there's some stuff that I see happening that I go, in a way, this is costing some attention away from a site looking snappy and fast. So animations, I don't think animations are bad, but I think they should be used sparsely, like incredibly low. My favorite animation is just the image hover, meaning when my mouse goes over the image, I do a little expansion, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Because if I load a block in slow down, that is in essence is a version of me slowing down the site or the experience of the site as it's being fast. In a way, you can say the same thing about lazy loading, but that's expected behavior. That is okay. But stuff flying in from the left and the right, and then giving you a visual. I mean, in a way, it's presenting your site in a slowed down fashion. I would avoid those for as much as you can. You clicked on Perf Matters, and that was a simple site, but it was a perfect site to demonstrate. As you click through, it's fast everywhere. It's a poof, 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 like you want it. That's the way you want it.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a balance, right? Because like for it really depends on the website. Like this is a typical challenge is when you are having to make a website for photographers. So like photographers obviously want to show their pictures sharp because it's about the pictures, but there's already some problem in WordPress is that if you upload it now, it automatically resizes it to 2560 pixels wide max, and you can then have another compression before the upload or after the upload, but like I mean for a photography website you want things to be fast, and there a little bit of animation is fine. It doesn't get a lot of traffic, but yeah, for a website that gets more oh, is he still here? Oh, he's still here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you went black. Okay, I don't know why.
Okay, interesting.
But there's always a balance, right? Because then you don't want to optimize the images too much. And like for my website, like on that page, I'm selling a course on web design. So if that page doesn't look somewhat inspirational, that's a problem, because I'm also trying to inspire people to show what's possible with web design. So that's like for my website, it's a little bit hard because I'm trying to also impress and show my skills with what you can do, even though now stuff has broken because of a plugin. But yeah.
So there technically is not a limit to having both of those scenarios. You demonstrating your expertise and in designs and whatnot, and loading a lot of stuff, and still being performant, because you don't need to load the large image on first load. That generally is I click on it and now I want to see the bigger version of it. So optimization of images is something you should be doing. Optimization of scripts and minifications you should be doing. There's many solutions out there that allow you to, from the moment you upload an image, and it then turns it into an optimized version. And there's even a version where like the edge that I've referred to before doesn't just serve your cached version. The Cloudflare solution, the APO plugin, it also optimizes your images. And there's other solutions out there. NitroPack does it also. So you get optimized versions of that image well within the bounds of what you would say that is acceptable. When you have those tools in place, they will convert the image from PNG and JPEG to WebP. Maybe some of them even already do it in AVIV. But essentially, they do all the optimizations they need to do to the image to make that the most performant version of the image. So we've talked about mostly about the smarter way of doing the building the site. And in the content building, there's also a bunch of smart things we can do. And that's smarter image uploading. That's also creating landing pages that aren't, incredibly long, creating problems in how we build the site. So there's a tons of different ways of making sure that we are doing the thing smartly. Mm-hmm. And images is a very important part of that.
Yeah. So generally, would you say that it is better to optimize your images before you upload, or are these converter plugins fine?
I don't have a specific preference. I just think that we should think about where we do it. So if that means I have the best optimized version before I upload it, great. If I don't know how to do that, then you need a solution inside of WordPress that takes care of that, or a server module that does it upon upload, or there's even a cool plugin that does it while you're uploading it from the browser. So the optimization happens in the browser.
Which one is that?
I mentioned it recently in my newsletters, but it's a funny name that I haven't memorized just yet.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. We can.
I think it's Simu with a C.
Okay. While you're looking that up, I'm quickly gonna refill my coconut. This is a perfect moment.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
When do we optimize images? Yeah, so somebody says, well, that's
CMO. CMO. So with a C.
Okay, wait. Let me switch to browser. CMO or CMO, like this?
This.
CMO. Oh, 800 installed. Like that's a gem.
Yep. It's very new. It's very new.
Because that's what I was. Okay, I've tested a lot of these optimizer plugins, and I was so annoyed because many of them are like, oh, you need to create an account, and you need to like connect this code, and then whatever. But like, I was just like, can you not just process it in the browser? Like, why does it have to be so complex?
Well, you can.
Yeah.
So in some cases, your clients are the difficult kind where you essentially just have a hard time telling them to, optimize your stuff before you upload it. And I get that. Some clients are just unteachable. But you should strive for it. If they don't understand what they're doing, what the impact is of loading a 24 MB image where 100 KB would have been enough,
Yeah.
that's also partly on you because you're supposed to have that responsibility um, to educate your clients on smarter
Yeah.
way of using their website. I think that is a
Yeah.
responsibility we have, and we should take more.
Yeah. Okay, so do you know by chance if this plugin also does it on if your clients upload? That's what you said, right? It's on
Yeah, yeah.
upload, this one.
Yeah, this one does it in the browser.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. All right, that's a nice little tip. Definitely be installing this. It also looks clean and nice, which is great. And then I see these images over here, the sizes over here. Um, do you okay? WordPress by default generates a bunch of different sizes, right? And
Yeah,
then you can in page builders you can choose like okay for the loop item or for the query of the loop the blog post I want a small one, and then when you click on the post I want a big
the
one.
featured images. Yeah, yeah,
That's the way to do it, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
um, without hyper optimization, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Because the that's the short answer. The longer answer is I have clients where they just upload the image. There are no add image sizes created on the fly, not even the default ones, the medium, large, and thumbnail, because all of the images are served through Cloudflare's images solution. So, hyper optimized, sure, but in some cases that's needed.
I see. I see. Okay. Yeah, I would love to learn more about image optimization, but then we're also going to dive deep, and I want to have two more subjects that I want to cover with you.
Yeah.
So let's jump to the next one. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe we should do a future live stream with more or some topics more of a deep dive. But yeah, for people watching, that's not what I wanted in this one. I just wanted to open up the conversation and learn the general concept, the way to think about it, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah, so let's talk about page builders, okay? Because like we already talked a little bit about Elementor. Elementor made so much possible in WordPress. They I think they revolutionized the well, they were not the first one though, because before Elementor there was like Thrive Teams, for example, which had some very cool marketing features, by the way. I
yeah. They
don't
still do.
understand what. Oh yeah, I don't understand why they never why Elementor never like implemented these features. They had A/B testing already like in 2018 or something. It was so good. Like why do we not have A/B testing? But okay, sorry.
I
um,
think Thrive Themes specifically solves a different problem. They
mm,
are more of a, well, certainly how they started, like we help you build better landing pages. And that's
mm.
a smaller part within what Elementor does, I think.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But you know what? That was not my point. My point was Elementor made this concept popular. Like, hey, you don't have to install a bunch of plugins. You just do everything inside of Elementor, and that's it. And then these add-ons came, but for most websites, you could still do everything within Elementor, Elementor Pro, and that's one of the reasons why it became so popular. But like we said, then things started to change. There's competition. Then Bricks came out, or no, first Oxygen came out, then Breakdance, then Bricks. I think
Yep.
that was in that order. Um, and then people started to move. I mean, not most people, but some people started to move because they started to care more about performance. I'm starting to realize it now. I think I had this realization about speed like half a year ago, and that was also the moment when Elementor started announcing V4,
Yep.
which I was then I'm just gonna wait. But at the same time, I'm still very interested in bricks, and so let's talk a little bit about page builders. And of course, we also need to talk about Gutenberg because I am very interested in what your view is on this. I mean, I've worked with Gutenberg, or I should say the block builder, because the name is very confusing. Most people call it Gutenberg. That's what you explained me before the call, right? It's like we call it
Yep.
Gutenberg, but it's actually called the block builder or the site editor. Like, what is it? Like, can we first
Yeah. So
tackle
it's
that and then get into the page builder
yeah.
discussion?
So Project Gutenberg was introduced, and the results of Project Gutenberg were the first one was the block editor, the one you're seeing right now.
Yeah.
The second one was the site editor, or also known as full site editing. But Project Gutenberg is now working on collaboration mode. That has nothing to do with the editor. That is stuff that's happening inside of the editor. And one of the names of the future projects is the multilingualism, will also be a result of Project Gutenberg. So this is why I make a distinction between what is Project Gutenberg and what is the block editor, what is the site editor.
Okay, but how should we call it? Like, if we're talking about this thing, like what
This
what
is
is
the
going to
site
be the
editor.
name? Okay,
This is the site editor.
the site editor. All right. So, but you also said the site editor is also kind of like this. The wait, let me save this one. The site editor is also here. This is called the editor. This is kind of like the theme builder
Yep.
of Gutenberg, or the theme builder of WordPress, however you want to say it, where you have all of the
Correct.
dynamic templates.
We are now in the site editor.
Oh, this is the site editor. Yeah, okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's very confusing because like many people call it Gutenberg or the block editor, but now you're saying it's actually called the site editor. So I'm very confused now.
Yeah, but I can't make I can't explain it better. This is the site editor. Inside of our content is the block editor, and they are derived from Project Gutenberg.
And Project Gutenberg is now a plugin that you add on top of the basic site editor, which then
no. Project Gutenberg. This is a plugin that provides the features that are being built inside of Project Gutenberg, meaning the future versions of the block editor, the site editor, and the collaboration mode live inside of this plugin.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But default WordPress, standard WordPress, if you download WordPress 6.8.3 right now, it will have the block editor, it will have the site editor. You do not need this particular plugin.
Yeah. I know that. You can without this plugin, you can basically make a website with the block builder.
And to answer the questions in the chat, Dennis Krijgsman, I use the site editor primarily. I don't use a page builder. I do play with Edge, and I intend to use it once it's fully out of beta, and you know the full release is there. But yeah, I use the site editor for all of my builds now.
So that's very interesting, and I definitely want to talk a little bit about Gutenberg. But let's just first tackle this first question. Like, why does the classic editor have 9 million installs? Like, why?
That's a complicated reaction story, because when the block editor was introduced, Ivana just said that was WordCamp Europe 2017. I think it was in WordCamp US. But when it was introduced, it was flawed in a great many ways. It did kind of what it needed to do, but not to the point that we could actually use it. For all the page builders out there, they couldn't work with the block editor. So, and this is from from the time that was Elementor, and all the other page builders that you mentioned earlier. All of those could not work with the block editor, those that had conflicts or whatever. So you needed a way to make sure that the classic editor was still working. And for that to be the case, you needed to install this particular plugin. And a lot of people reacted also out of spite, because, I didn't ask for this, and let me just use the classic editor. You even had a fork off of WordPress called Classic Press. Why this is so high is mostly related to those two things, as far as I can tell. You needed a way to continue to use the classic editor, WordPress uses the block editor by default. So if you don't want that, this is the plugin to add. But
Okay.
if I'm being really honest, the classic editor was never a nice editor to work in. There's just so many limitations in it that for me it was a breath of fresh air to have the block editor, not the first versions, but at a certain point, and I forgot when that was, but it's probably 2 years in, where I went like, okay, now the block editor makes sense. You can build the stuff with it. And before that, I used
Yeah.
ACF in the flexible content way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, okay. Yeah, we don't have to go into that. Let's just talk about the page builders. That's more interesting.
Yep.
So yeah, let's talk about the big dog, Elementor with their
Yep.
V4. I think that's the thing we should be talking about because next year every website probably is gonna be that. I don't know exactly when they're gonna push it out, but like, let's talk about Elementor. We know it's not great right now. That's what most people have started to realize now in terms of performance. And how good is it gonna become? I've personally seen screenshots of the code before, and then the amount of divs, they call it divception, where it's like div in a div in a div in a div, and
Yep.
that's like reduced to almost nothing now. It like super clean, and they have a few too many classes, but from what I've heard, but many, like even like Tailwind CSS also has like many classes, so that doesn't necessarily make it slow. But just the divception they have solved. But is it as good as Bricks is gonna be, or do you not know? And how does that compare to Gutenberg?
I haven't tested that. I haven't tested V4 that deeply.
Okay.
I've mostly looked at it in terms of, all right, they have solved defeatist, so that's good. You know, there's a few other smart things that V4 does in terms of providing a better and optimized version. Last tests I've heard where a whole bunch of solutions were tested in terms of is it smarter to use the site editor in terms of performance versus a page builder? As far as I know, there are a few solutions out there that offer that in a performant way. But the block editor is constantly being improved on to be more performant. And I think there's not many cases where introducing a second layer of content creating inside of WordPress produces a slower version. Like, I'm sorry, produces a
No.
faster version. So in
Yeah.
general, they will
Yeah.
always introduce some extra load.
Yeah, so I wanna touch on this because this is something that I think I realized like or learned about 3 months ago, is that when I started to mess around with the block site editor, um, I realized that Elementor was yeah, kind of like in a way competing with what WordPress is right now. Like, I always ignored like the site editor because back in the day, Elementor wasn't competing because the text edit the content input field was just for blog posts for basic stuff and to show or put in a bunch of shortcodes. But now it has become a lot more. And so Elementor is kind of like a layer that's on top of WordPress, but every page builder is that, right? Or almost all of them.
They are all a layer on top of WordPress, yes.
Yeah.
But they all have very different implementations. So you have Elementor, you have Edge, which is my favorite. You have Bricks, which is on a performance side of things really good. You have WP Bakery, which is also a very performant one, but less, not my favorite UX.
Yeah.
So, all of these page builders have different ways of approaching the same problem. Um, I have the luxury to say, look, I want to go for the fastest version of WordPress that I can have by default,
Yeah.
and that for me is essentially two flavors. That's the site editor, limited as it is because it is limited,
Yeah.
but I understand how to create a block that lives inside the block editor, site editor, where I can do fancy stuff. So it's just based on PHP, and I still know how to do that.
Mm.
I don't generally work with the fanciest of designs because,
Yeah.
as beautiful as they are, they're not necessarily good in converting.
Yeah.
Um, I have used Cadence. I have used GeneratePress, and I can recommend those as well because they have performance in mind. But in terms of uh, how I build sites, that is generally focused on as close to WordPress core as I can possibly be.
Yeah.
And Cadence, the one you're looking at now, and GeneratePress, uh, they have really smart extensions on top of the normal site editor, block editor. So they're really smartly built. Highly recommend both of them.
Yeah, but
But I
Cadence
don't
is
have a need for a page builder. And the only page builder that
yeah.
I'm looking at as something that I want to work with more, again, once it comes out of alpha and beta,
Yeah.
is Edge. Because one of the
Edge.
things I like about Edge that it forces you to be um, developing sites the way from a high standards point of view is doing it. And so it forces you standards and it gives you all the flexibility to do this. But alongside what it also does is whatever you build in Edge syncs back to the block editor.
So
So
that's the
you are working
closest.
natively
Yeah.
in as close to WordPress as you can, but you're just
Yeah.
building it in a different layer. And I like that concept a lot.
But isn't that what also Bricks does?
No,
Okay.
no, not in that fashion. I mean, I haven't looked at Bricks for quite a while, so maybe the latest version does, but I don't think Bricks does it in that way. Edge is really a very different approach. Um, but yeah, it's still in alpha, or has it gone to beta? No, it's gone to beta. So I'm sure there's sites that have been built in it, but yeah, it's not fully active and live yet.
Yeah, I see. They're still building it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, here, yeah. 1.1, 1.00 Alpha 7.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. But I just have a question about like Gutenberg because Gutenberg is or sorry, the site editor is of course like it's not a layer on top, it's literally WordPress, but Cadence is still a classic theme. So do you then mean like
No, no.
this like set of
Correct.
yeah, so this is the one you like.
Yeah, I have the pro version, but
Okay.
Cadence Blocks, I think, is the plugin it's called.
Yeah, it must be this one, right? From Stellar.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. But a problem with good with the site editor is that if you wanna achieve yeah, if you wanna achieve something custom, you will still end up with a whole bunch of plugins because the site editor by itself is right now very limited in yeah,
It is.
they're not like yeah, it's just missing a lot of basic stuff in my opinion. I've really tried to make some designs and I was like, oh, this is not gonna work for me, from a design perspective. So, and then you have to go into this plugin and then you have to search for block plugins. And then the problem is once you start installing a few block plugins, what's gonna happen is that all of these plugins they add their own widgets or blocks, you should call them here, but they add
Yeah.
their own type of widgets on top of it. So you're going to end up with like 3 heading widgets. And then you don't know which to pick because it doesn't say which one it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
what,
This is
what?
so. This is a problem. This is
Yeah.
this is a real problem. And one of the comments earlier was about I don't like the UI of the block editor, site editor. And I don't disagree with that. I think there's a lot to be desired for. I think the UI currently is like there are. Let me just say it um, very accurately. There are page builders that have solved this problem of uh, you know the same problem that the site editor and block editor want to solve. They have solved this for ages. I think we should have leaned in way harder in figuring out these are the existing ways of how people have come to understand how they can play with this, and then find a way that is derived from that. The whole of Project Gutenberg, I feel they've been trying to reinvent the wheel, and they ended up with a subpar solution. And that subpar part is, I think, what's hurting it most. I think there's also a part where, to highlight the problem you mentioned, I think they should have enforced a better way of allowing extended versions of existing blocks. Because you now, indeed, if you have cadence and generate blocks, for instance, you are in more than one way having to solve the same problem in very different ways, because no standard has been enforced anyway. So yeah, you're really stuck with 3, 4 different versions of adding a heading, which really shouldn't be the case. What should have been the case is the default heading block, you build an extension for it. So when you go to the block settings, you are using the same settings, but you're building on top of that. You're extending that. That should have been the thing we should have been forcing, and sadly that didn't happen.
Yeah, but is there a way back? Because, like, again, the
I
reason
mean, there
why
is. There are standards now, and those standards are too small to be enforced. But at a certain point, we can say, look, this is how it's supposed to do, and you have 3 versions of WordPress to get your plugin to work with the new version. Because right now you're using an old API. Let's do this smarter. Let's make WordPress better. This is something we can do.
Yeah.
And that process has started. And a shout out to the people from Grade with Grade Suite. They're essentially building the extensions on top of the page builder the site editor. They're building on top of that in the right way.
Yes.
And there's others that's starting to do this as well, and they're pushing really hard to make this happen inside of the Project Gutenberg. So I have good faith where we'll end up where we need to end up.
Okay,
but it's taking too slow.
It's taking time, but at the same time, Gutenberg or the block editor doesn't really compete because it's free, right? Like they don't. It's not that they have pressure from investors that they need to add AI features right now. It's just like it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter how slow they are, but it doesn't matter that much compared to Elementor, for example, like because Elementor is competing with a lot of different other companies, but yeah, the block editor is not really competing directly, indirectly, of course.
No. It's WordPress is supposed to be lean and mean, because the base lean and mean version of WordPress means it's a performant and fast site. It's simple. That is where you start from. Again, one of the first things I said is that the more stuff we add to WordPress, the slower it becomes. That's inherent in how this thing works. So WordPress itself needs to be lean and mean. That doesn't mean every single choice that went into WordPress, certainly on the site editor and block editor side of things, has been the smartest thing. But they are very actively looking at performance. And right now, if you have a block theme, so a theme that works with the site editor, that works by default, works faster than a classic theme. So and that didn't used to be the case. So they're very much actively working on this.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a big fan of the block editor, and you think that this is the future of where WordPress is going, because you think that more and more people are starting to care about performance, but you do see issues with the chaos and the speed of
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
development.
I'd be blind if I pretended that that wasn't the case. But there's, the example you have in front of you, Ollie, design faster and publish sooner. That theme, Mike McAllister and Patrick Posner, they are building Ollie, and the things that they do with Ollie in providing the better and smarter way of this is how I would approach a block theme. That is something I think is a good way to understand that what we have coming towards us is promising, because Ollie solves a lot of problems in a really good, smart way. And both of these guys are very much aware of performance and the impact that certain choices have.
Yeah.
And then Ollie has the menu designer. It has Ollie Pro with even more templates and parts and patterns and whatnot. It's just a really smart way of building a site editor theme. So if you just look at the default theme of that comes with WordPress as this is the site editor theme that I'm supposed to get inspiration from, I don't think that's the case. But if you look at Ollie and then check what Ollie does and what it allows you to do, you might get enthusiastic because there's a lot of stuff inside of Ollie that you can actually work with.
Yep. Yeah, I just did it while
I
you were
highly
talking.
recommend you check out the Pro version, by the way, because Ollie, this is what you're looking at is just the default theme, but the magic of Ollie is in Ollie Pro. And no, Mike didn't pay me to say this.
I mean, I'm trying to understand or justify it in my mind, like, because it's $250 per year, and like, if this is also a thing, like if companies like Ollie want to convert people, then it has to be a very good deal. I mean, 250 is better than 400 per year, what Elementor is right now for agency plan. So it's already a reduction cost, but the design possibilities are just not here. And so then what are you getting? More templates? I mean, that's not, for me, it's not worth it, because I can design anything myself if I have the design tools.
I think if you dive a little deeper into Ollie, so the creator version is $69 a year. Freelancer allows you 10 sites is $129, and then agency is $240 up to $250. If you look into the existing designs that are being provided by Ollie Pro, you'll see there's a lot more done on the design side of things. It's still not at the level of Elementor, but it's I would say more than 80-85% of the sites that I ever built in the last 20 years, I can build with Ollie.
Yeah, I see, but you're also saying, like, you're not really that focused on that much custom design. And for me, as a someone with a design background, it's like the moment I get like limited in terms of design, then it's like it's easy frustrating for me.
I get it, and again, shout out to Mike, because Mike McAllister from Ollie, because Mike is a designer and he shares your same pains.
I have very good hopes for what was his name again? Mike
McAllister.
Mike. I've chatted with him on Twitter many times. We are he responded to me with a video, and I responded to him with a video. It's pretty cool. He's a really cool guy, and I have a feeling that this can be the direction where we're going, but it's I think the block editor has a lot of marketing work to do. The perception of it is just not great right now, and that we have this whole mess of plugins that are doing that are not building on top of it but are replacing it doesn't help with the chaos. So I honestly think leadership should like.
I think we are seeing slow but sure improvements in that direction. Again, I think the whole Project Gutenberg started from the wrong foot. That whole thing should have been done smarter, but we are here now. We now have much easier mechanisms to extend existing blocks. We don't have to reinvent the wheel by creating an entirely new block. That's a good base, and once we start enforcing that more, we're staying performant, we're staying fast, we're staying lean and mean. Our UIs will improve. Accessibility is built in better. All of these things benefit them. I see the future as very bright. Certainly, if you look examples like Ollie and what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm starting to get excited about it. Like I've played around with Ollie, but not with the pro version, so I should definitely do that as well. I think I'm gonna just send Mike a message and be like, "Yo, I want to test because this
Let
looks
me
so
do pro.
interesting." Yo, yeah, give me the pro. Yeah. So okay, last topic, almost last one. Nah, almost. Wait, are we still good? Are we still good? We're streaming for 1 hour. Oh, almost 2 hours already. Okay, how are you, Remko? Are you like still sharp? Are you still feeling it, or are you like, I'm done with this shit?
Not done, but in 9 minutes I have a next thing. So
Oh shit. Okay. Let's I didn't know the time was going so fast. People seem to enjoy it, so that's good. But let's go to the less important subject then, which is offloading. I want to talk about offloading because I love working these days with this company called Fillout. Working on a video of this because it's just so awesome. Like this company has literally replaced my Calendly, my Google Forms. It's a beautiful form builder. They have lots of integrations, scheduling, PDFs, payments, all in one.
yep.
And the pricing is also amazing. Like you get a lot for free. So here, 1,000 responses per month for free, and you can start collecting payments, PDF generation, form embedding to embed it on your website. So I love this company. Okay, I'm just falling in love with it. And one while I was researching this, I was like, wait, you can just embed it on your website. And then I started to think about like, wait, there's also companies they have the same promise. For example, SureCards, the competitor of WooCommerce, says like, hey, we just process all of the payments, so your website's not so heavy and you don't need all of this crazy hosting and performance because we process it, and it's almost like an embed on your website. So what do you think about this general idea of like, for example, doing your forms on a platform like this and then embedding it, or e-commerce? E-commerce is probably another rabbit hole, but like the general concept of offloading, is that good for performance, or do you think it's not doesn't have a big impact?
I think my philosophy actually boils down to one very simple sentence. If there's stuff you need to do for your website that doesn't need to live inside of WordPress, then by all means do that. For me, that means security shouldn't live inside of WordPress. I mean, your two-factor authentication, sure, but a web application firewall shouldn't be provided by a security plugin. That should happen on the server level and in front of the server. So again, the edge. These types of things that you're mentioning, if that fits your flow, it's an interesting choice. I think it's very much like you need to measure for the impact. So if it means the embed is slowing down and that matters on the particular page where you're doing this, then yeah, think twice before you're implementing services like this. But if they're built smartly, it shouldn't really be a huge issue.
So embeds
I don't
are not
use these
always...
solutions. Yeah, I'm going to give Techie's reviews what he wants. It depends on the scenario. So if it doesn't really hurt your performance and it improves your flow, again, then that's the smart choice for you to make.
Yeah, so you're now I see it, because sometimes like a YouTube embed can really slow down a page. I've seen that
Yeah, but
happen.
an embed is not an embed. So a YouTube embed is actually not. It's an embed, sure, but we're seeing the image. We click on the image. We're loading the external JavaScripts and all the stuff that we are then using to stream the video. There's a whole bunch of logic going on for showing a video, but there's also embeds that are very straightforward, where you, for instance, have close to no external dependencies that you need to load. But there's also embed solutions where you're loading so incredibly much where it just doesn't make sense to use an embed version. So it really depends on how it's built. You can't say that all the embed versions that you can add to WordPress are built in the same fashion. They're not.
So embedding isn't always better than processing the things on your own
Correct.
server.
Correct.
That's the short answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can really screw things up just by loading everything in that embed, because it still needs to be loaded into the browser.
Okay. Well, one of my last questions was, but that's not a short answer, so we don't have time for that. But maybe next time, if you're up for it. But that's like, how do we even measure this stuff? Because I know I've read on your blog that you have like some specific plugins that measure how many processing is happening and what shouldn't be happening and what is okay, but that's of course a deep dive. Oh, okay.
I can't give a short answer. If you go to my blog, there's a post that covers this particular thing, and it's called "How I Diagnose WordPress Performance Bottlenecks." In it, I cover all the things.
How I diagnose. Okay. All right. That's an interesting one. So I'm gonna read that one later. Yeah, this is nice. Okay, I'm gonna share that one probably in the YouTube description. Yeah. Honestly, you have just. Oh wait. You have just opened. You have just opened a whole maze of possibilities, but it also feels a little bit, I'm calling it a maze because it's easy to get lost in all of this stuff. It's like it's already
it's very still very much high level of the stuff that we talked about. There's, if you go in the more tech detail, there's so many things that we also should have mentioned, but it's not a small field. There's optimizations happening on every single layer of that is loaded into the browser. We only touched images, but there's fonts, there's video, there's ways of how you load it, what protocol you're using. There's a reason why I have 25 modules for my Make WordPress Fast course, because all the modules have at least 3 lessons inside of them. So that's, that one. It's just a lot. Like there's an incredibly vast amount of things you need to be aware of what it does and how you can then optimize it. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see all the modules.
Yeah, there's so much to learn just about this subject.
There's so much. So you're never fully caught up. That's that's what you start with.
Jesus, that's a lot. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn for sure. So let's thank everyone. Everyone. Let's thank Remco Remkus, for all of the information that he provides. And if you want to learn more, then his course is absolutely here on his website. Oh, it's actually on withinwp.com.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, that's where I have my courses, my newsletter, my podcast.
Okay. So withinwp.com, that's where you can find, that's basically what for me living with pixels is for you that, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, probably. Okay. You need to go right now. So I just wanna say thank you. I'm just gonna chat a little bit more with the people to see what we wanna learn. And yeah, like you said, like there's so much to learn. And I think in the live stream, if you wanna do a deep dive, you have to pick a few topics. But I think we did a good job in this stream with covering the general idea that there is that this is something that is not just an afterthought.
It should never be an afterthought. Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you want to add, Remkus, before we end?
No, we're good. I'm good. Thanks all for the questions and the comments. Appreciate you all.
Yes, we're getting
and
some
thanks,
hearts.
Lex.
Lex is here. Lex is always happy, awesome. For the blog is filled with awesome info. Yeah, exactly. There's so much to learn on his blog. Very interesting live stream. Would be cool to see another one with Remkus. Yeah, of course, I'm gonna try to convince Remkus later to do another live stream. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, this was just this was great, and I think it's just amazing that we can learn from a professional like you, and I personally want to thank you because you have definitely made me think about many things.
Happy to help.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck with your next thing. I'm so sorry that you don't have a break before your next meeting, but
It's fine. I'll manage.
Okay.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye. Okay. Yeah. Let's answer a few more questions, and then we're gonna go. Maybe you guys could put in the chat like what you want to learn. Like how should I like what should I tell Remkus for the next live stream? Like, what are the things that you guys want to learn? I'm personally interested in images. I want to learn how to do that, and yeah, and of course the plugins. Like, it would be nice, you know, if we could at least understand a little bit how to set them up. And there are so many more concepts, like also in building. I do teach quite a bunch of stuff, especially in my Elementor Pro course, about like how to build in a proper way, right? Do as much as global as possible, but from styling, from dynamic content. But yeah, it's quite a deep rabbit hole. So I think I'm just gonna take a look at like this page, and just maybe you guys should also do that. Just go to this link, okay? Within WP, click on courses, make WordPress fast. That's his course, and just scroll through it. Like, what are the things that you can start with? And I know it's overwhelming, okay? Like, this is the thing. I always try to simplify my teaching. But this is as we can all see, it's a quite a deep topic. There's so much to learn. So how I like to teach is that the education should be accessible, because if it's too overwhelming, then the motivation drops, and then people are not going to take action. There's so much to learn in our industry, so we should pick something that we can get excited about. That's what I believe, because then your motivation comes from within. Yeah, let's just scroll through this. Oh, here, image optimization. He has a module about that. Fonts, yeah, interesting as well. I think I'm just gonna write down some things. Let's see in the comments what you guys are saying. But really, the board for the time that I follow you. You really learned a lot about the technical side of build. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. That's really nice, especially after the attacks from this week. For some people that know what happened, and it was a very interesting week for me and my social media. Yeah, I mean, this is it, right? It's not so simple as some people make it out to be. My content, I do learn a lot, and yeah, when I started out in 2019, I didn't know a lot, but you know, the more I spend time online building stuff, the more I learn, and the more I share. Like, that's literally what I do. You know, I come from a design background. That's my strength, which I should talk a lot more about, actually, because I talk mainly about development stuff, because it's just so much to talk about. But design is my strength, and that's what I should focus on more, because the WordPress world needs a lot of design knowledge, I feel like, because design is incredibly important for converting. And I don't mean colors in an animation. Design goes a lot further than that. Design is also UX design, like the experience, the storytelling. This is all part of the of the experience. So let's see. Lex says it would be nice if Remkus shared his preferred stack. That makes it easy. Yeah, I mean, he already said like it depends on the project, but yeah, I do want to also like I like to get practical, right? I try to push him a little bit and be like, hey, what do we use for this kind of project, right? And what websites can we put on a shared or on a package, on a hosting package that has multiple websites, because that's what you buy, right? Like most of us, we buy a package with multiple where you can host multiple websites on it. But yeah, he says like you should if you want to get performance, you should just buy from these companies that just sell one website per that just give you a one website per month package basically. But yeah, it depends. It depends on the traffic. It depends on how big the website is, the database. Will be helpful to see how to debug the performance of a slow. But yeah, that's one of my last questions actually. How do we measure speed? He linked to an article on his website, but how do we measure it? Like these plugins, the optimized plugins, they don't give us any data. Tell him that the default blocks are extendable. He incorrectly mentioned that not possible to build upon. There are JS hooks for that. Yeah, okay, maybe he meant like that there's no code way to build on top of it. I don't know. Yeah, more design process, yes. Let's try to make the gap between design and development smaller, Reno. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Dennis. That's what it's all about. Like we live in a time right now where designers can do a lot. Okay, no code is getting bigger, whether you like it or not. Now, especially with AI, and so that means that as designers that are also no code developers, you should know that development is not easy. Right, and so you should learn about it, and that should be welcomed. That's very important instead of being demotivated or gatekeeping behavior. Yeah, that's what I believe. Yeah, this is a topic for another day. And also there's a lot going on. Like this week, also Canva bought Affinity. It's also interesting. But yeah, that's not what this stream is about. Query Monitor is a must. You need to know how to use it. Same with... Yeah, I think that's what he talked about. Query Monitor. That's one of the plugins where you can check what's happening on the website. So yeah, we have quite a few interesting things. Yeah, this name, I saw it coming back all the time. Builderias. I've mentioned it in another stream. I mean, you guys were talking about it. This is another page builder that we have right now on WordPress, but I have no idea. It looks, from what I can see, it looks similar to Edge, honestly. It looks like a mix of bricks and Edge. You have the code to edit, but the UI looks a little bit like Edge, like bricks. It's interesting. I don't know if this is good. I don't know. Yeah, he was talking about that the query monitor. So yeah, this was it, guys. I think this was it. This was good enough for this stream. We streamed for 2 hours. 2 hours of full interview has been very productive. Normally, I just do an explorative kind of live stream where I'm just trying to build something, trying to figure something out. I do want to say, for the people that are watching, some people think that the 3-4 hour streams that I do are tutorials. They're absolutely not. I am trying to create an environment for everyone to just hop in and just try to figure stuff out together. Like, nobody has all the answers. Okay? That's that's just how it works. Like developers, before this whole AI wave came, developers always used to joke like, "Oh, I'm just copying things from Stack Overflow." And it's like now they're not. I don't see that joke that much anymore, because they're under more pressure now, and that's why I've been saying, like, I think that developers who really are really good at code should level up. Because the more like guys like me and you guys, like no coders, we learn on how to properly develop, the more capable we become. And that takes some more time, but it will happen eventually. Nobody understands everything for sure. Yes, we're all learning, we're all figuring out, we're all humans, we all make mistakes. That's why I stream as well. Exactly, explore together. That's what's creating a nice learning environment for everyone, and that's very, very important. Oh, Remkus is still here. Default blocks are not extendable. Yeah, I also didn't think he said that. I think that they are extendable, but not when first iteration. Oh, okay. All right. Well, good that we got that clarification as well. Always important to listen carefully. Can I see this stream back? Absolutely. The live streams will automatically convert into a replay. That's a beautiful system how it works on YouTube. Again, let me do one more shout out to our friend Remkus. Where is he? Over here. RemkusDeVries.com. He is also a Dutch guy, a performance specialist, and his other blog is withinwp.com. Also cool name. It's just amazing how fast these websites can be, eh? Like, I hope I'm gonna get to a point one day where the websites can be this fast. It is definitely inspiring. So yeah, that was it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, Toby. Thank you guys for being here, Toby and Lex and Dennis, as always. There were many people in the chat. John. Thank you all for watching. Oh, what was that? Oh, that's going wrong. Who? Okay, something went wrong. Okay, in the last seconds, I messed up my whole... Okay, that was funny. Thank you all for watching. We're gonna end it here, and see you in the next live stream.